Alright, we'll just start back with creating the sign-in component. At least I'm kind of doing it in one sitting this time. Don't always add up on the videos, but alright, so we're almost the halfway mark on the page. Creating the sign-in component. To implement the sign-in component, create a new folder named signin inside your public app authentication folder. Inside your new folder, create a new file named signin component TypeScript with the following code. Import component from Angular core. Import router from Angular router. It's almost going to be the same as the snippet above. It's just changing the template. Well, you got to change the selector, and you got to change the URL, template URL. So export class sign-in component. So you're naming it. The error message is going to be a string. The credentials are going to be any. It's actually just feeding it any equals an empty array credentials. Any. I guess it's given an empty array, but because it's an array, it can add almost like a keychain maybe. Constructor, private authentication service, private router, sign in. This authentication, okay, so this is the actual function that goes with, okay, I'm kind of getting this. So this function is a method of a module that's attached to a view. I don't know, it's abstract, but I think I'm getting it. Subscribe, result, anonymous function, this router, navigate, error, this error message equals error. See, that's another anonymous function. Okay, there's the comma. So result, okay, result, error. Okay, that makes more sense. From that parentheses, goes to there. Subscribe. Missing one. Yeah. Goes to there. So this will actually go all the way down to there. So subscribe, result. Okay, if that wraps all of them. So I guess what I'm trying to figure out, it looks like result is a function, an anonymous function called result, and an anonymous function called error. Note how our sign-in component uses the authentication service in order to perform a sign-in action. Don't worry, we'll implement this in the next section. Next, you'll need to create a file named signin template HTML in the same folder as your component. In your new file, add the following code. Okay, so the action, the sign-in action. So we'll worry about this later, is what it's saying. What I was sitting there trying to figure out. It's like, how's all this work? I'm like, nah, don't worry about it. Next, you'll need to create a file named signin template in the same folder as your component. In your new file, add the following code. Username, password, error message. Form, Angular submit. Okay, so it's all form down to here. It's the closing tag. Angular submit equals sign in. There it is. So this form is equal to that. credentials username Angular model. Okay, so maybe that's the data binding. Credentials username. We've just created a new component to handle our authentication sign-in operation. The signup component will look quite similar. Creating the signup component. To implement the signup component, create a new folder named signup inside your public app authentication folder. Inside your new folder, create a new file named signup component TypeScript with the following code. Import component, import router, import authentication service, add component, selector signup. Okay, export class signup, error message, user any constructor, private authentication service, private error router, signup. This. Note how our signup component uses the authentication service in order to perform a signup action. Next, you'll need to create a file named signup template HTML in the same folder as your component. In your new file, add the following code. Okay, first name, last name, email, username, password, error message. It's a form. Angular submit equals sign up. Been working on sign in. Nope. There. Alright, so this was sign in. And now we're doing sign up. Now that we have our authentication components in place, let's go back and handle the authentication service. Creating the authentication service. In order to support our new components, we would need to create an authentication service to provide them with the needed functionality. To do that, create a new file named authentication service TypeScript inside your public app authentication folder. In your new file, paste the following code. Injectable, import injectable, import from Angular HTTP, import observable from RxJS observable, injectable, at injectable, export class authentication service. Public user equals window user. Private sign-in URL, API auth sign-in, private sign-up, API auth sign-up, public window user. Kind of curious what all that has, like what comes in the public ID versus what they're going to hide behind the wall. Like that would be the most exposed part, it seems like. I guess just because it says it's public. Maybe that's just the way they name it, public user. Might want to Google that by itself. Public user equals window user. So I noticed that in the text earlier, they referenced that like it was just like everybody should know what that is. And I kind of get an idea, but I guess it's coming from your browser. But it says Windows, so I guess I'm overly associating it with Windows, Microsoft. Oh. Well. Can't be though, because it's not. It's just the top hit. There's got to be a little more to it. It's the because it's coming from the browser. I mean, we're not all in Netscape anymore. So is it just like an overloaded term, like headers? On the server, you're usually not talking about H1 tags. Window. So this is a Windows. There's no plural S to it. Trying to get a little more context here. Yeah, is not what I put? Public user equals Windows user. No. Let's try the browser. I mean, it could just be the IP address. It's just I'm trying to figure out, like, it's coming from in the code somewhere. I guess if you go to like a repository, let's see, window user. So it would be set somewhere in authentication service, I guess. So export class, private. See, these are it's setting these to the HTML. So what window user? Probably overanalyzing it. Just be glad it works. Constructor, private HTTP is logged in. It's a boolean returned. I'm curious about the double. I know one's not this user. Definitely not this user. Double negative. If you're definitely not this user. Might be if not. Let's see. Might be shorthand for so you can take out the else. Sign in credentials. I'm just guessing at that. Don't quote me in a textbook or something. Because I really need to look that up. I have no idea why it's 2 instead of 1. I saw they did it earlier somewhere. That might be an ES 2015 thing or a TypeScript thing. I don't know. It's just it's a code. Encoding, there are certain codes that I don't understand yet. I know one of those would be a not, like as in negative. Return not this user is logged in, boolean. So maybe it is the if. It's a toggle to return this user is logged in. No, it's not a toggle. Is logged in, true or false. It's like defaulting to not. I'm just not sure what. Definitely not. Sign in credentials, any, observable. Okay, I was wondering before where it set the any. I think it said don't worry about it, we'll do it later. So here's where it's picking up the any credentials, any, observable. Looks like another Angular tag. Any. Let body equal JSON stringify credentials. Let headers equal new header, contact type, application JSON. Let options equal new request options, headers. Return this sign in URL, body options. Map response. Let's see. Okay. map response. Okay, this user, that helps. I was trying to figure out window a while ago. This user, window user. So it's got to be sitting in here somewhere, export class, because it's really the first variable that it's picking up inside this function. As soon as I say that, it's not. It probably is, but it's probably coming in from a chain somewhere else. Note how we decorated the authentication service class with an injectable decorator. Way up. 17, about 10 more minutes. Give me just a second. I wish there was a pause button on this. I don't mind leaving the stream going, but I wish I could like pause the recording and not have to splice them together later. Okay, it's important to take care of your eyes. Couldn't read another 10 minutes without eye drops. It's after midnight, 12:34 actually. Note how we decorated the authentication service class with an injectable decorator. While that's not needed in this case, it's an @injectable. So I had to notice it. Okay. While that's not needed in this case, it is good practice to decorate your services that way. The reason is that if you'd like to inject a service with another service, you'll need to use this decorator. So for the sake of uniformity, it is better to stay safe and decorate all your services. Another thing to note is the way we get our user object from the window object. Yes, I was wondering about that. I love it how this book predicts my questions. Another thing to note is it answers questions I've predicted, I guess. I don't know. It's like I'm in sync with where this book's going. It's like the things that confuse me are usually the things it works its way to rather soon after I've asked about them. Another thing to note is the way we get our user object from the window object. Yes, where you're getting your window object. We also add, is that all it's going to say about it? This is a good thing to think about. The way we get our user object from the window. Get the user object from the window object. So it looks backwards, but I didn't see them references it anywhere else. I guess that's because you're not using it here. This is like a constructor because your export class. Okay, so maybe it's supposed to be backwards because you're not using it. You're creating it. So it's like you're setting the template up for use, I guess. Oh, here it is. User. It's on the other side of the equation. Public. Alright, let's read it again. Window user. Note how we decorated yeah. Another thing to note is the way we get our user object from the window object. So whatever is the user in the window is getting passed in as just the user in the application. The window object. It's probably one of those computer science terms I should have went to college for. If a document contains frames, the browser creates one window object for the HTML document and one additional window object for each frame. One additional window object for each frame. Window open method. Window closed property. Okay, that makes a little more sense. I think I heard that before, and I kind of knew what it was saying, but I just wanted to I feel like I need a refresher on that. I feel better now. Okay, so to know that we did. We also added 3 methods to our service. One that handles sign in, another that handles sign up, and a last one for error handling. Inside our methods, we used the HTTP module provided by Angular to call our server endpoints. In the next chapter, we'll elaborate further on this module, but in the meantime, all you need to know is that we just used it to send post. Just used it to send post a request to our server. Feels worded a bit funny, but I get what he's saying. All you need to know is that we just used it to send post. I can almost leave send out, but whatever. Just used it to post a request to our server. To finish up the Angular part, our application will need to modify our application module and add a simple home component. To extend our simple example, we'll need to have a home component that will provide the view for our base root and will present different information for the logged in. Just thought of something actually. Things take so long to load on here anyways. We got a couple other things running. We'll need 1, 2, 3 it in. Yep. I was wondering earlier when I tried to look at my local host and it's not running now. But I got a screenshot. Maybe that'd be easier to, because there's some other information in there. Hey, we got this now, but it won't load the same. But I guess that's in cache. That's why you get different localhost, localhost, localhost. So that's cool. We got all those error, Mongo, download, YouTube, guest access. Kind of curious about that one. But I'm logged in, so when I go to localhost, I noticed it was giving me. I was wondering why it returned the Google one and nothing else. I thought I kept it as a screen, like a screen grab, like a capture. I don't see it now. Maybe I kept it on the this other one. Maybe I kept it on screenshot it, because they would have both been on my Windows 10. I bet that's it. OAuth Google callback. So maybe that's what I was supposed to be getting. I was wondering why it showed Google and not Twitter or Facebook. But maybe when it shows that loading, maybe that's what it's supposed to be doing. Maybe that's all we've told it to do. Let's look up 304s. You know, well, that's not what I was expecting. Conditional get or head request has been received and would have resulted in a 200 OK response if it were not for the fact that the condition evaluated to false. So that tells me, okay, that helps, that does help. It means it's doing what it's supposed to do, because I've got an error, but it kind of, and here, those are still 304s. Let's go back. We also had 302s. 302 there. So basically it's a found. So those are going through. .304, 304. Right up on 304 again. The 302. Okay, so these would have been true if it wasn't false. Which makes me think I'm, I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But the 302 is found. Call back. Fave icon 200 app would have been true if not false. Get library core JavaScript client shim system.js config libraries zone system.js reflect metadata reflect.js fave icon. Let's read up on 200s just to 200 sounds healthy. That's the icon. Basically, it was local. I didn't have any problems finding that, which kind of gives a little context to the others. So it found that, and it found that, and it would have found these if it wasn't false. That's basically what I'm getting out of there. But I just noticed too the 302. So that's a healthy one. It was Twitter and Google's the two I thought weren't working. I don't see anything for Facebook unless the fave icon, unless the icon's coming from Facebook, but I doubt that. Okay. Anyways, let's go back to reading. Just kind of some stuff I wanted to check up on there. We're learning. This is what studying looks like. Sometimes it's boring. It's like watching paint dry. Especially when you're not the one actually. I mean, I hope you guys are. If you're watching this, I hope you're kind of studying. I hope you're watching it because you're kind of curious. You're like, oh, that's how you figure that stuff out. It's not the main reason for doing it, but it's not my main reason for recording it. But if you can find a reason for watching it, that's what I'm hoping it would be. I guess you could be sitting there laughing at me, but whatever. I ain't worried about that. To extend our simple example, we'll need to have a home component that will provide the view for our base root. Let's see. To extend our simple example, we'll need to have a home component that will provide the view for our base root and will present different information for the logged in and logged out users. To do that, create a folder named home inside your public app folder. Then create a file inside this folder called home module ts TypeScript, which contains the following code. 35. We can do it. It's a long episode, but I'm tired of reviewing the top half of the page and not completing this. Because there's got to be something on this page that'll get us past the loading screen. Because, I mean, we're basically after this, it's the summary. We're almost at the end of chapter 7. And surely summary is not going to take away our loading screen. So there's got to be something in this last half of the page that we've not figured out. That'll be a bonus episode. I don't know if I'll do that one tonight, but I want to finish this page. This is already our second episode tonight. So yeah, we're just going to run this one long. To extend our simple example, we'll need to have a home component that will provide the view for our base root and will present different information for the logged in and logged out users. To do that, create a folder named home inside your public app folder, then create a file inside this folder called home module TypeScript, which contains the following code. Okay. Angular module, import common module, import route module, import home routes from home routes, import home component from home component. At Angular module, import common module, okay, router module for child home routes, declaration home component, export class home module. As you may have probably noticed, our module is only importing a new home component and the routing configuration. Let's continue by creating our home component. Creating the home component. Since it's just importing it, let's create it so it'll have something to import. Next, we'll create our home component. To do that, go to your public app home folder and create a new file called home component TypeScript containing the following code. Okay. As you can see, this is just a simple component which has the authentication service injected and which is used to provide the component with the user object. Next, we'll need to create our home component template. To do that, go to your public app home folder and create a file named home template HTML with the following code inside. Okay, so if we get past the load, we should get to Angular. If it's equal to user, we should get hello user with our 3 links. Okay, I get that. And it's going to go through the API to reach the auth sign out function. Then another div. So this one will render for user, and this one will render if not user. Okay, that makes a little more sense. This template's, wait, what else we got? Router link. Hello. Sign out. Okay. This template's code nicely demonstrates a few of the topics we previously discussed. Note the use of the Angular if and router link. Yep, I did. Let's see, router link. Directives. Okay. We talked about earlier in this chapter, configuring the home routes. To finish with our module, we'll need to create a routing configuration for our home component. To do that, create a new file named home routes TypeScript inside your public app home folder. In your new file, paste the following code. As you can see, this is just a simple component routing. This is just a simple component routing. To complete our implementation, we'll need to modify our application module a bit, refactoring the application module. To include our authentication module and home component modules, we'll need to change our app modules TypeScript files as follows. Getting there. I want to grab a drink. Wish I'd taken that break now. 10 minutes from a double episode, but we're so close. Let's hurry up. We gotta import all this stuff. Browser module, the router module, the HTTP module, the app component, the app routes. Here we go, we're adding this actually. All that stuff was already in there. At this angle I can actually see the bolding difference. And then down here we got to add the service. Okay, so home module from home module, authentication service, authentication module. As you can see, this is quite a big change to our application module. First, we imported the HTTP module and our new home and authentication modules, along with our new application routing configuration. We injected the authentication service in the provider's property so that it is available for all of our submodules. The last thing we have to do is implement our application routing configuration. Configuring the application routes. Okay, look at this again. App module TypeScript. This is kind of the main thing. That's why it's important, all this stuff up here. Configuring the application routes. To configure our application routes, we'll need to create a new file named app routes TypeScript inside the public app folder. In the new file, paste the following code. Path. Anything, whatever it is, just send it back to here. That just feels so recursive. I don't care what you are, go back to home. Who's on third base? I don't care, go home. What if they hit a foul ball? I don't care, go home. That just feels very recursive. Export constant app routes equals path redirect to. I guess it's taking it as a default, and then if you actually need to change anything, you'll do it in the export constant app routes. Oh yeah, because you're pulling these in from outside, so then you're setting them. So whatever this is, probably get kind of get it. It's just hard to see all these parts fitting together. As you can see, our application consists of a very simple single configuration, which redirects any unknown routing request to our home component. Oh, okay. Unknown port routes from Angular router. Export. Kind of makes more sense. This is it. Your application is ready for use. All you need to do is to run it by invoking the following command in your command line. So we've done that. We should be at this point. When your application is running, use your browser and open your application URL at localhost 3000. You should see two links for signing up and signing in. Use them and see what happens. Try to refresh your application and see how it keeps its state and route. Alright. Well, at least we got through the text. 45 minutes. I've got the server running. I've tried to keep notes on some stuff we can try changing. May have to take up may have to go outside the book for a minute and kind of see like what other, look at some tutorials and find some other material. I don't know. It's probably something simple that I'm overlooking. I may think about it overnight. Let's see. I don't know when I'll get to do another episode for sure. And I may have to go to a different subject when I do. I think I've got a guest scheduled for tomorrow. Anytime I've got to record, we'll be doing some more entry level. I think she's 13. But my niece is going to start on a free code camp possibly. I tried to mention Code Kingdom to her too, but that's like $190. But I did notice they've got a free one, so we may try that one out if she wants to. but she'd already mentioned Free Code Camp, so I think we'll start with that for now. And then I'll surprise her with the Code Kingdom maybe near the end of the episode, see how she responds. But anyways, for now, I'll go ahead and call it a wrap. 46 minutes, that's almost a double episode, and we still don't know how to get the code running. It's stopping right here at the loading. Which is, I mean, it's kind of good. We're getting this far. Main app loading. So maybe that is it. That is it. No, it's not it. Because it said we'd get our links. We're not getting any errors. Other than we're getting those 304s and we're getting the 302s. Those are our best clues. It's whatever response the server's giving us. And 304s and 302s are not dead ends. I mean, let's see, what did it say? It would return something if it was not false. So the window user stuck on null, maybe. The other one was 302. The 302, it's getting the Google off. It's liking that one, I guess, because maybe I should sign out. That's another thing. I could try sign out of the browser and see if it changes the response I'm getting. That might tell me more about what the 304s and 302s are coming from. So, anyways, we'll call it a night. I don't think I'll do the server stuff tonight. I'll just put I'll just go ahead and start my upload, which I think this is. I got 2 episodes recorded, and one of them's really long. So, let me see. What did we record? I'm just gonna do my upload for the night, get some rest. I got a lot of yard work to do tomorrow. We got 2 recordings. The first one started right before midnight. Usually shows. There we go. That's the one we're still doing. So we got that one on time. 548 megabytes. Yeah, that's about a half gig. That's about what I expect for a 25-minute episodes, 500 megabytes. So an hour, 2 25-minute episodes for an hour would be a gig that we're uploading. So if we do that for an 8-hour day, we're uploading 8 gigs, 6.5 hours over an 8-hour workday of actually watchable video content uploaded, plus streaming. But anyways, that's not yet. That's what we're working towards. I'm still doing a lot of yard work at the moment, but that'll slow down for the winter. I want to put all my, anytime I got available, I want to keep adding to this workflow without giving myself carpal tunnel. Part of that's using this thing as an armrest. Part of it's shifting the workload over to my left hand instead of my right. So let's take this to YouTube. I wonder if I can, what it would do if I tried to upload a file that's still recording. I don't want to mess with it like that. Excuse me. If I really wanted to be fancy, I could put them both up at the same time, but that means I gotta stop the recording. So, yeah, we just hit 50 minutes. There's really nothing else to show you other than wonder why my window's not moving. I guess because I'm using my other hand.